Neanderthals were an extinct species of person that lived a long time ago. Homo Neanderthalensis lived about 40,000 years ago, but they died out because of things like disease, climate change, and competition with European people. Even though there aren't many Neanderthal remains, the ancient DNA found in well-preserved dental plaque helped us learn about their food and health. That's not all. Their behavior, culture, and how they connect with each other. Their bodies were directly linked to their health. Neanderthals were shorter and stockier, which helped them deal with the weather better before climate change. Most people today were larger and leaner, which made them more sensitive to cold. Their strong construction kept them warm and kept them from getting cold. They had ways to adapt to the weather, like special fat stores. That's what I like to say about my little too much. They also had big noses because of a change in their genes. A man back then was 5'5" and weighed 75 kilos, or 165 lbs, and a woman was 5'4" and weighed 60 kilos, or 132 lbs. Were they tougher and used to living in a tougher place? The total population stayed low, but there are signs that people from different cultures are mixing. Some people think that they had more than one cave and that they moved them depending on the weather and temperature. Their short lifespan was made worse by the fast-paced and stressful atmosphere. Some say they lived to be 40 years old, but most of them died soon after turning 20. The way we live has changed a lot since life expectancy used to be around 40 and is now twice that. Clothing. It was common for hunters and gatherers to go barefoot during the summer months, but during the winter months, they would wrap themselves in animal skin to remain warm. Because clothing does not fossilize, there is very little to no evidence to suggest what they wore in the past. However, the only possibility that makes sense would be to either skin animals that they consumed or to make use of nature in order to shield themselves from the weather. A notable example of this is a wolf. For example, the Inuit continue to hunt wolves even in modern times, since the structure of their fur does not freeze like that of other animals. As a result of the fact that they were primarily covered with long hair, they did not need to wear garments the majority of the time. As a means of compensating for their hair loss, they donned clothing or fur. In simpler times, there was less of a sense of shame associated with being nude. Considering the time period in which they lived, it is believed that Neanderthal technology was quite advanced. Rather than using stone, they were the first people to employ tools fashioned out of bone than stone. An excellent example of what they would use to slaughter animals and cut the skin to manufacture clothing is the lissoir tools, which were shards of ribs taken from deer. Consumption. The spy Neanderthal that was discovered in Belgium was consistent with the carnivorous assumption. They most likely consumed woolly rhinoceros and wild sheep in their capacity as large game hunters. For those who are having trouble visualizing this, consider the movie Ice Age and how the hunters survived the ice era. They ate vegetables only infrequently, but when they did, they ingested native mushrooms, which are still often consumed in Europe today. There were significant cultural and regional differences, as evidenced by the fact that the El Cedrón Neanderthal discovered in Spain was notably different. Pine nuts, moss, tree bark, and a wide variety of mushrooms and herbaceous material were among the foods that they ingested as part of their diet, which was primarily vegetarian. Through the use of a subterranean fire, they were able to prepare soups, stews, and animal stocks while cooking their food. The bone fragment from the animal revealed that bone marrow had been boiled, and it had been collected from animals that had already killed themselves due to famine. At the same time as they consumed a lot of protein, they consumed extremely few carbohydrates. For the purpose of breaking through thick flesh and bone, their incisors were significantly larger. However, as a result of the softening of food, our teeth have become smaller and more blunt. Furthermore, Neanderthals smoked food, adding flavorings from plants such as chamomile to the smoke. They learned how to prevent food from going bad by killing more animals than they consumed from time to time. Both the process of preserving food and the process of curing meat are examples of this. There was a significant amount of cannibalism that was practiced throughout this time period. The top limbs were removed, the lower limbs were defleshed, and the chest cavity was emptied, according to evidence that had been gathered from Croatia and Belgium. In addition to this, there is evidence that human bones were utilized in the production of implements. Language. P. Lieberman was able to rebuild the vocal tract of Neanderthals using his research in 1971. According to him, it was comparable to that of a baby due to the fact that their lips were so large that they were unable to produce those sounds. Therefore, he came to the conclusion that they were incapable of articulating speech, despite the fact that they were able to communicate different noises. Nevertheless, the finding of the Neanderthal hyoid bone, which is a bone that is utilized in the production of speech in humans, revealed that they were more developed than we had previously believed. Although not as far as the human dialect, they were able to use syntactical language, which is language that is used to structure language. For example, word order. As is the case with a great number of other things, the level of linguistic complexity has not yet been determined. In different civilizations and at different times, it will have been not the same. Due to the fact that they interbred with humans, it is plausible to argue that they were quite fluent in the language that was necessary for their survival. They will have mostly utilized terms that were of value, and they will have eliminated any words that did not contribute to their survival. One could say that need is the mother of ingenuity, just like their tools and clothes might be. It was a case of survival of the fittest when it came to language, in addition to this. Hunting. The notion that Neanderthals were knuckle-dragging cavemen is a widespread misunderstanding. Their survival is astonishing to me despite the fact that it is true to some extent. They were experts in hunting medium to large-sized animals, and they employed spears with stone tips for their hunting activity. During an ambush, the spears were most likely employed at close range and hurled a short distance away from the target. Due to the fact that it was either eat or be eaten, it is easy to envision that they were quite skilled hunters. If you have ever thrown a javelin, you will realize the amount of work that was required to ensure that the throw would travel a significant distance. Bands were the way they hunted, and they murdered their prey up close. Having the ability to engage in communal hunting techniques, they thrust their spears from an underhanded trajectory. It is essential to gain an understanding of this history because a significant number of people still possess Neanderthal DNA. The fact that the need to survive is a driving force for development is further demonstrated by this. Despite the fact that there is still a great deal more to learn, we all have to begin somewhere. We hope you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're a history addict, and please let us know about what civilization or time period we should talk about. Also, watch another video here.